It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
I guess every decision has a price, and when I weighed up the cost of trying to juggle everything, the cost was just too high.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Hello, this is Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm here with my wife and podcast partner, Mrs. Happy Families, Kylie. I'm the author of 6 books about raising happy families, and between us, we have procreated 6 times. We have 6 daughters in our family, and we do our best to be happy.
You know, our kids would be rolling their eyes right now if they heard you say that.
That we've procreated 6 times. I can't believe I actually can't believe I said that.
Because they think it's only been 6 times.
Just the other day, I was doing some learner driving stuff with one of our children who happens to be on her L's, and she asked me the question. She said, Dad. She said, Dad. So I'm nervous even talking about this. She said, Dad, because you and Mum are kind of old now and you've already had 6 kids, do you guys still have, much? And then she sort of whispered, sex. And I was like, I'm going to take a really big deep breath here and just talk about how relationships evolve and develop and how when...
Did you answer the question?
No. But what I did say is that when couples are really focused on pleasing one another, that they can enjoy a wonderful, intimate life well into their 70s, 80s, and maybe even beyond. I mean, we don't really know anyone beyond that.
Did she
gag? She just kind of nodded her head. I think she was processing, like, where on earth does this go from here? Anyway, we've got a really important conversation to have this morning in this podcast, because a couple of weeks ago we had a conversation about your new decision this year to kick off 2021 with study. You're going to go back to school, going to make it all happen, full of confidence, made the decision.
I wasn't actually full of confidence. I was
that's
scared
true.
out of my brain.
In fact, let's have a listen to what we said.
I need to find ways that I can be creative in my space that enable me to feel joy and purpose outside of my role as a mum, because that's only one of my roles.
Kylie has just enrolled in school. Kylie's going to go back to school next year, which hopefully will fill your cup but not empty ours. Because Kylie is going to become a florist.
Well, I'm not going to become a florist, but I'm going to learn the art of floristry. That's probably a better way of saying it.
So excited for you.
I'm very, very excited about it.
And whenever you've got school, let's say it's on a Wednesday, I'll be looking after dinner that night.
Oh, I love the idea of that.
So we'll be having takeaway every Wednesday. So, honey, how's the study going?
Well, that's a bit of an interesting question.
I think the answer is it's not, right?
It's not.
Let's talk about this. And the reason that we want to talk about this, I mean, we were so pumped for you to go and do this course at TAFE. You were going to do a 6-month course in floristry. We were super excited for the development and the learning and the skill acquisition. And then something happened.
Well, let's face it, it's been 21 years. I've been a stay-at-home mum for 21 years.
Which is why you wanted to go, right? This is something where you can use your strengths, you're passionate about it, you're really excited about doing that. And the 21 years thing didn't really factor into the decision not to continue with studies this year.
No, but it was definitely part of the excitement in just being able to, develop myself further and learn this new skill and meet new people, Often your circles are very limited when you're at home with the children.
And I'm so I can't tell you how excited I was. You've sacrificed so much for 20-something years now, so that you can raise our children while I'm trying to become the breadwinner, and I've gone and done my studies, and I've had a couple of different careers, and so this was your opportunity, right? This was your chance to say, okay, finally, it's time for me to do something for me. You've shown up on orientation day, and
I've had a bit of a meltdown. As I've sat there and I've listened to everything that they had to share, I knew most of it and I had got my head around what was expected, and then they added a few extra bits and pieces that I hadn't been aware of. And I started to kind of just reel in the logistics of how I was going to make it work. Can I do the work? 100%. Was I worried about being able to do the work? not at all.
Okay, so it wasn't really a confidence issue. It wasn't
No.
like you were sort of saying, "Oh, gee, I don't know if I can get through this. I'm not signing up to do law or medicine. I'm going to become a florist." I'm sure that there's a lot that still needs to be learned, but it's a 6-month course, not a 4-year university course. So there's clearly a different cognitive load and a different time frame. So it wasn't about the learning as such.
And going into it, I knew that it was going to be a stretch for our family logistically, but adding a few extra logistics to it after I had already mapped out.
Yeah, like getting up on a Monday morning at 4:30 so you can get to the markets to buy flowers, and then being at TAFE for 2.5 days every week full time.
Fighting peak hour traffic morning and evening, meaning that I literally would not see the children Monday, Tuesday, and half of Wednesday.
Yep.
And then the additional extra, 6 or 7 hours that I had to do independent study would mean that probably Wednesday I wouldn't see them either. And that was really hard to kind of get my head around firstly. But at the same time that happened, you had some massive stuff going on for you. And we recognised that when we looked at the calendar, out of 60 days that I had contact hours with, you were not even going to be here for 30 of them.
And the calendar hasn't really started to fill up yet.
It hasn't. And so the realisation that I was going to have to try and juggle all of this on my own with limited support. My mum's about to have a hip replacement, so she's not going to be any help. They're about to move into their new house. So I don't have any family structures in place at the moment that would be helpful either.
And you've got a husband who's just no help at all.
Well, that's not true. But logistically, you're not here often.
Yeah. And so I want to talk about the thinking process that you went through, because I'm sure every family goes through this. You've got one person who's a primary breadwinner, and then another person who sometimes there may be two primary breadwinners, but not many families are like that. Most have a primary breadwinner and then somebody who supplements the income. And let's acknowledge straight up, we're in a really wonderful and fortunate position where me being the primary breadwinner is enough for our family. Sometimes it's not, but most of the time it is. Over the years, it hasn't always been, but at the moment, we're in a position where you can actually make a decision to work or to not work. And we're so grateful that at this point you're home with the family. But this was a chance for you to really go out and do something that you were excited to do. And so in just a sec, we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back after the break, what I really want to do is unpack how you made that decision. Because our family went through 2 or 3 days of fairly significant discomfort as you were kind of working through it. You're pretty grumpy.
It was a wrestle with this.
Pretty grumpy with everybody. But I want to work out the kinds of questions that you were asking yourself. And of course, this isn't going to work for everybody. But let's spend a couple of minutes on that in just a sec so that we can understand the sacrifices that mums make.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And, we've had a big decision get reversed in the last little while. Kylie was off to school. Now she's not going to school. And we've had to really wrestle our way through some really challenging times. Now, at the outset, we've highlighted we're in a privileged position where you can choose to study or work or not. And we've also highlighted, I think, that I really wanted you to be able to do this, and I was really supportive. But because I am the primary breadwinner, my calendar was making logistics just a real challenge. It was almost like we would have to hire somebody to come and look after our children so that you could go and do this course. It was the only way we could get through due to not having enough support around us to rely on family and friends and so on. And so you've made this decision that you're not going to study, but what was it like going through that? I mean, it was almost a week, but there was 2 or 3 days that were particularly intense. Walk us through how it is as a mum when you finally think, my time has come. I've raised the kids and now I've got an opportunity. I mean, we've still got kids that require raising, but now I've got an opportunity to go and study and I really want to do this. What's happened for you there?
I started to really unravel, I think. Mm. I really started to unravel. As I thought about, this wonderful opportunity that was placed before me and then the realization that logistically, I just couldn't make it work. I guess I kind of went into that big black hole that I think mums all around the world go through at some point is, when is it going to be my turn? Why do I have to always give up the things that I want? and I'm going to get emotional because it's a really, really difficult space to find yourself in when you recognize that you've given so much for so long and you want something.
Yeah.
And you want it bad. And then you realize that it's actually just not going to work.
Couples need to be able to come together on these topics. And for us, we decided that, well, you decided that you're going to wait another couple of years.
It took me a while to get to that realization. But as I kind of wrestled with all of those feelings of, I guess, sacrifice and feeling hard done by, and not from anything you had said. I mean, you have been an amazing support as I've kind of worked through it, and you were happy for us to organise to have a nanny come along to make this a realisation.
Well, I said I was happy about it, but now that we're talking about it and the decision is made, I wasn't that thrilled about it, but I would have to support you.
You would have, and I know that. But then I started to kind of, I guess, take it through my values filter and start to really think about what are the things that mean the most to me? What are my priorities and what are the things that I stand for? And as I started to think about those things and really kind of live into those values, I realized that, again, privileged decision that I'm able to make, this was a want and not a need. And right now, my family needs me. And
I need you.
And you need me.
I actually do.
And that was still hard, even coming to that realization for myself. That was hard to sit with for a few days. What I found is that the longer I sat there, this suffocating feeling that I had been experiencing as I was trying to work out how I could do it all, you know, how I could be the mum that I want to be and the wife that I want to be and be where I need to be, but do something I want to do. I couldn't physically do it all. And so I had to make a decision about what was most important to me. And at the end of the day, my want, it's at the bottom of the list because I will pick my family every day over any of the other things. And the exciting thing is it's not gone forever. I'm giving it up now, but that doesn't mean that I can't do it next year or in 3 years' time, or in 3 years' time my needs and interests change and I'm able to do something different. But once I actually came to that realization and I engaged with those values, I can't actually tell you how empowered I feel. This has been such an amazing experience. When we decided we were going to talk about this today, I guess hung my head in shame. I've quit. I've given up. I've let go of, this dream that I've wanted to, accomplish something, amazing that I could kind of show my kids. And I was, I guess, feeling a little bit, I don't know what the right word is. I guess I was feeling a little bit, if I'm completely honest, I was feeling shame that I can't be that woman. I've watched women do this and seem to be able to juggle all of these balls at once, and I recognise that I can't.
I reckon I'm going to interrupt you for a sec. I reckon you could. Well, what you've done is you've chosen not to. You've said, I don't want to be running faster than my legs can carry me. We do that too much because I'm married to Justin Coulson, for crying out loud. I want to try and slow things down.
I guess every decision has a price. And when I weighed up the cost of trying to juggle everything, the cost was just too high and I wasn't prepared to pay that price.
Well, I reckon what you've actually done, and not every family is going to make that decision. Not every family can make that decision, and certainly people have different values, and we're not suggesting or implying that somebody should do this because this is what you've chosen to do. This is just who we are, and this is your story. I wanted to share the fact that you've quit with everybody because I think that it takes courage to make a decision and then say, it wasn't even necessarily the wrong decision, but the timing's wrong. It's not what I'm going to do right now. It takes a lot of courage to walk back a decision, especially when you've made it publicly on a podcast where there's, tens and tens and tens of thousands of people who are listening to this decision. In fact, somebody just recently said, hey, how's Kylie going with her studies? And I said, well, it's funny you should ask. So it takes courage. But, you talk about you wanted to be able to show the girls, our daughters, that you could achieve something. And I think that what you have actually done is you've shown them that you have achieved something. You've shown them that you value something, them, sufficient that you're willing to. When you sacrifice something, what you really do is you give up something of lesser value for something of higher value. And this is why I really wanted to talk about this, because mums and dads, but especially in a still fairly male-oriented workforce, mums give up so much. Mums sacrifice so much ongoingly, every day, every week, every month, every year for their families. And I think that what you've done is you've sacrificed. But if you look at that definition of sacrifice that I like to use, you've given up something of lesser value for something of far greater value.
Thank you. I really appreciate that throughout this whole process, there's just been this absolute 100% support and backing me up in my decision, whether it was to study or not to study. And I think that support is what's actually given me the courage to say no this time, because I know that it will always be there.
Well, I wish that you were doing it, but I'm so grateful for the decision that you've made. And I guess I'm just going to have to start saving so that I can afford the bouquets and the flowers when we finally have another wedding.
Hopefully that's not too anytime soon.
I hope not as well. Look, this has been one of those conversations that we think is really important because these are the kinds of decisions that every family has to make regularly. Do I go back to school? Do I make this sacrifice? Do I go back to work? Do I leave the kids with somebody else? How do we make it all work? I don't know whether this has been helpful for you, whether it's given you some insight into how you can make these decisions in your own family, but we really hope that it has been helpful. And we hope that you've enjoyed the podcast. As always, if you do enjoy the podcast, we would be so grateful if you would leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It's when you leave those podcast ratings and reviews that other people get to find out about what we're doing and how we can make their families happier. So please jump online, take 90 seconds and leave a rating and review. We'd be so grateful. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, our executive producer, Craig Bruce. If you'd like more information about how we can help your family be happier, please check out the Happy Families memberships. There's so much that we can do with ongoing month-to-month support to support your family as you make big decisions and raise those kids to be happy and resilient. You can get all the information that you need at happyfamilies.com.au.